The hum of their PCs was a familiar symphony in the Miller household. David, a man whose youthful energy belied his 40-something years, sat side by side with his son, 12-year-old Leo. Their shared passion, Fortnite. Not just watching streams or talking about it, but diving into the vibrant, cartoonish chaos of Battle Royale together, night after night. Ready to drop, Dad? Leo's voice crackled through his headset, a mix of excitement and focus. Born ready, son, David chuckled, his fingers already dancing across the WASD keys. Let's grab that victory royale tonight. They chose their landing spot, always somewhere a little risky but with good loot potential. This time it was Tilted Towers, a chaotic urban sprawl teeming with other players. As their avatars plummeted from the battle bus, the familiar whoosh filled their ears, almost a physical sensation they'd grown accustomed to. House on the right, Dad! I see a chest on the roof, Leo yelled, already deploying his glider. David followed suit, his digital boots thudding onto the corrugated iron roof just as Leo smashed open the glowing chest, a blue tactical shotgun and a stack of light ammo spilling out. Suddenly, the world around them shimmered. The familiar cartoonish graphics seemed to deepen, the colors becoming hyper-real. A strange, low hum resonated through the room, vibrating in their chairs. Dad, did the power flicker? Leo asked, glancing around their dimly lit game room. David frowned. I don't think so. Everything else seems fine, but it wasn't fine. The air thrummed with an unseen energy. The game on their monitors seemed to bulge outwards, like a liquid straining against its container. Then, with a sickening lurch, the screen exploded in a flash of pure white light. The next thing David knew, the metallic tang of gun oil filled his nostrils. His ears rang with the distant sounds of gunfire and frantic building. He blinked, his eyes struggling to adjust to the bright, almost offensively cheerful sunlight. He was standing on dusty ground, clutching a surprisingly solid-feeling pickaxe. Dad? Dad, are you okay? Leo's voice, now startlingly close and real, snapped David to attention. He looked down to see his son standing beside him, a wide-eyed expression of confusion, and a slightly too large tactical submachine gun clutched in his hands. Around them, the world was undeniably Fortnite. The brightly colored buildings of Tilted Towers loomed, complete with their haphazard construction and strategically placed loot chests. The air even carried the faint, almost musical sound of distant supply drops. Panic flared in David's chest, quickly followed by a strange sense of familiarity. It was like stepping into a vivid dream you'd had hundreds of times. Leo, what happened? David stammered, his voice raspy. Leo gestured around with his submachine gun. I don't know. 1 minute we were dropping, the next, this. It's just like the game. A deafening gunshot cracked nearby, the sound echoing off the cartoonish skyscrapers. Both father and son instinctively flinched and crouched behind a half-destroyed brick wall. We need to move, David said, his mind racing. The rules of Fortnite, ingrained in their muscle memory from countless hours of playing, started to surface. Survived loot, eliminate. They cautiously moved through the debris-strewn streets, their pickaxes their initial tools. They smashed through walls, the satisfying thwack surprisingly real, revealing hidden rooms and thankfully loot chests. Inside, they found more weapons, shields and glowing blue bottles and stacks of building materials. Dad, look! Leo pointed to a vending machine plastered with cartoonish advertisements. It's just like in the game. Hesitantly, David approached it. The options were familiar. Weapons, healing items, building materials, all purchasable with the gold bars that had mysteriously appeared in his pocket. This is insane, David muttered, but a strange sense of grim determination was already settling in. They were in Fortnite, they had to play by the rules. The storm horn blared in the distance, a deep, ominous sound that vibrated through the ground. A giant purple wall began to shrink on the horizon, just as it did in the game. The storm! Leo cried, his eyes wide with a mixture of fear and adrenaline. We need to get to the safe zone. Their familiar game knowledge became their survival guide. They knew the map layout, the best places to find loot, and the importance of building for defense and mobility. David, usually the more cautious player, found himself instinctively laying down walls and ramps, creating makeshift fortifications as they moved. Leo, normally more aggressive in the digital world, stuck close to his father, his youthful exuberance tempered by the reality of their situation. They encountered other players, figures clad in bizarre and colorful outfits, brandishing equally outlandish weapons. There was no friendly banter, no pre-game lobby, only the sharp crack of gunfire and the desperate scramble for survival. David felt a jolt of adrenaline as he aimed down the sights of a borrowed assault rifle, his digital reflexes translating into real-world movements. He managed to take down one opponent, a bizarrely dressed banana man, with a well-placed burst of fire. The fallen player vanished in a puff of smoke, leaving behind a small pile of loot. "Just like the game," Leo whispered, his face pale but his eyes filled with a strange fascination. They learned quickly. Fall damage was real and painful. Healing items provided a tangible sense of relief. Building was essential for defense against gunfire and for scaling obstacles. The Victory Royale wasn't just a digital trophy anymore. It felt like their only way out, their only hope of understanding what had happened and returning home to Parkersburg. As the final circle drew near, only a handful of players remained. David and Leo, battered and bruised but surprisingly resourceful, found themselves perched atop a hastily constructed fort overlooking a grassy plain. The storm raged around them, a swirling vortex of purple energy. "We can do this, Dad," Leo said, his voice surprisingly steady. David clapped him on the shoulder, a surge of pride mixed with terror. "Together, son, just like always." They scanned the remaining players, their hearts pounding in unison with the frantic rhythm of the game's final moments. The vibrant, cartoonish world of Fortnite had become their harsh, unbelievable reality, and they knew with a chilling certainty that their only way to win was to play by its rules all the way to the end. The purple storm wall pulsed, encroaching on their small, hastily built fort. David, his heart thumping like a drum solo, peered through a narrow slit in their brick wall. Leo, surprisingly calm, crouched beside him, his eyes glued to the scope of his assault rifle. "Two left, Dad. I see one behind that big rock formation to the east," Leo whispered, his voice a steady stream of tactical information. "He's got a sniper." David nodded, sweat trickling down his temple. Their current tally was 5 kills, 3 for him, 2 for Leo. Not their best game by a long shot, but considering they were actually inside Fortnite, it felt like a miracle. The sniper fired, the crack echoing loudly, and a chunk of their brick wall disintegrated. David quickly patched it up, the familiar building animation now a frantic scramble of real-world effort. "He's pushing!" Leo yelled, opening fire. David swung his view, spotting the glint of a highly polished shotgun. The remaining opponent, a menacing guff skin, was charging their position, seemingly unafraid. David and Leo both opened fire, a desperate spray of bullets against the advancing threat. The guff leaped, building a ramp in midair, a classic aggressive push. "Watch his head, Leo!" David shouted, letting loose a burst. Leo's shot found its mark, a satisfying ping sound indicating a headshot. The guff stumbled, his shield breaking with a distinct shimmer. David followed up with a precise shot from his assault rifle, and the guff disintegrated into a shower of loot, just like in the game. "That's 6, Leo cheered, a nervous giggle escaping him. But the relief was short-lived. A rustle in the grass, almost imperceptible. David's eyes darted to the west. He caught a glimpse of movement, a bush rustling unnaturally. "Last one, Leo Bush Wookie, 270 degrees west," David barked. Leo, his hands already steady, shifted his aim. The storm was now right on their heels, shrinking the playable area to a mere patch of dirt. There was nowhere left to hide. Suddenly, a figure burst from the bush, a default skin wielding a gold-plated pump shotgun. This was it, the final showdown. David and Leo unleashed everything they had. The default skin built a wall, then another, frantically trying to create cover. But they were cornered. David threw a grenade, forcing the opponent to move. Leo, seizing the moment, laid down suppressive fire. As the default skin tried to reposition, David aimed for the head, his hands trembling slightly, but his focus absolute. He squeezed the trigger. A single clean shot. The default skin exploded in a cloud of digital confetti and loot. Silence. The storm receded. The chaotic symphony of gunfire and building ceased. The vibrant world around them seemed to shimmer, then solidify. Above them, a giant golden Victory Royale banner unfurled, bathing them in a warm, ethereal glow. David and Leo stared at each other, their faces streaked with grime and sweat, but their eyes wide with disbelief and an overwhelming sense of triumph. We won," Leo whispered, his voice hoarse. David let out a shaky laugh, a mix of pure elation and lingering terror. "We won, son, we actually won." As the golden light intensified, it didn't feel like they were fading out of existence, but rather solidifying. The hum returned, this time a gentle thrum that resonated deep within their chests. The colors of Fortnite, so vibrant and real moments ago, began to soften, to blend, to become familiar. Then with a gentle pop, they were back in their game room. The monitors glowed, displaying the Victory Royale screen, their avatars standing proudly amidst the confetti. The PCs hummed their familiar tune. David looked at Leo, whose eyes were still wide, then down at his own hands. They were trembling, not from cold, but from the lingering adrenaline. Did that just happen? Leo asked, his voice barely a whisper. David picked up his mouse, his hand still feeling the phantom weight of a real assault rifle. I think so, buddy, he said, a slow grin spreading across his face. I think we just played the most epic game of Fortnite ever. They didn't get any extra XP for it, no V-Bucks, but they had something far more valuable. A shared memory, so surreal it could only be real, of the time a father and son literally fought for a victory royale. And they had gotten 7 kills in total, a new personal best for their duo.